Hello my fellow oil painters. Today I want to do a quick tutorial on how to make mountains and get your practice in before you touch your canvas. So in order to do this, we're going to need a palette knife, we're going to need paper, and we're going to need some cheap acrylic paint, and we're going to need some cornstarch. So we mix the cornstarch with the acrylic paint until it's kind of the consistency of oil paint. And then we use our palette knife just like we would be using on canvas with oil. I grabbed a selection of palette knives to use to show you first of all what they look like. So that's a palette knife. Sometimes they come shaped kind of like this. My favorite one is shaped like this. These are really good for scraping off your palettes, and that's why I really like them. Now before we start making our mountains, I want to talk a little bit about palette knives and how we get the paint off of them. So you think about putting the paint onto the knife, and we put it on the back side of the knife, usually. And we sort of slide it across our palette and we roll up the paint onto it. And then you have to think of taking the paint off of it as slowly unraveling it onto the canvas. So we don't want to be pushing with any kind of pressure. It's almost like sliding it like it's like we don't want to touch the canvas. And once you actually have paint on your canvas, it is the paint on the canvas that will steal the paint off of your knife and not you actually pushing the paint onto your canvas. So we're going to get started. I already mixed my acrylic paint with my cornstarch, so I'm ready to go. Now before we get really moving on this, one thing that I want to talk about is the way mountains actually look. So this is actually some oil paint first. Mountains do not look like that. Mountains tend to have a much more natural progression. So usually when I'm using my palette knife, I will slowly kind of jiggle up and down and then work my way down the mountain. And you can make it more steep if that's what you're going for. A lot of my mountains are not. And this will turn from one big rock into kind of numerous mountains. Now we don't need to use that outline. That was just my way of kind of showing you what mountains do and don't look like. So I have a big gob of this cornstarchy acrylic paint on my knife that is rolled up, and we're going to unroll it onto the canvas. So I usually start going one direction and then I will come back and go the other direction. So we're going to start kind of in the back of the mountain and just gently work our way over. And then I'll come up to the top. And like I said, I just kind of jiggle up and down as I work my way down the mountain so that it has more of a natural look to it. And then we'll come down this way. Now sometimes this paint will get pretty thick, which it's okay to have it that way, but if you don't want it, you can kind of scrape it down. The important thing is to keep the outline of the mountain. It's supposed to look nice and sharp because obviously rocks are sharp and well defined. So we want to kind of keep that. And then this stuff we kind of fill in, and it's not quite as important. However, if you have it all one solid color, it will take away from its look of having distance and stuff in the mountains. So you want to try to avoid that. With the base of our mountain now on our canvas, or our paper, we are going to start frosting the mountain. Now if you want to frost a mountain but not have like snow on your mountain, you can use like grays and browns and stuff instead of using like white mixed with a little bit of blue or a little bit of red. So I'm actually going to use some silver for the main part, and then I'll probably add a little bit of blue to the silver for our shadow. Our light in this picture is going to come from this direction. So it's good to keep that in mind as you're making your mountains. So we're going to start. We have some silver paint on here, a nice roll that we're going to unroll. And now that there is paint on here, that paint is going to pull the paint off of our palette knife. I'm going to start far away and then I'm going to work my way forward. And you just have to kind of pick where you want your peaks to be. And we want to leave some of this black stuff coming through because it gives us depth to our mountains. If our mountain is all one color, it's not going to have depth. I added some blue to the silver that I had on my palette to do the shadowing on here. So we're going to start again from this side because that's furthest away. And then just like a whisper, you slide across the mountains and let the mountains, the paint that's already there, you let it take off of the knife. And again, if you have these big open black spots or your darker color or whatever, it's okay to have that. It gives you depth and realistic stuff that mountains tend to have. Now, in where our blue is going to meet our silver, I try to leave a little bit of black right on that ridge because you get that bit of a mountain that's kind of peaky, that kind of sticks out. So if you can leave just a little bit of a space in between your colors, and it doesn't have to be consistently the same size through the whole thing, but it really does, it gives it kind of a realistic look to the mountain. So we'll come in here. And then I'm going to swing. I'm going to make like a C motion. And that makes it kind of create like a dramatic sort of cliff almost. So I kind of start down here and I shake my way up. And then I'll shake my way over to make like a C shape. Of course, this mountain isn't completed. We haven't done the blending and stuff that you would do at the base of the mountain. And that's not really what this lesson is about. This lesson is to be about how to use that palette knife, and more importantly, how to get practice without having to use canvas and oil paint. Now, if you get a chance and you can do this, I would suggest that you do this with 10, 20, 30 sheets of paper and make mountain after mountain after mountain until you're really good at it. And then once you're really good at it, you can put that on canvas and you're going to save yourself time, canvas, money, all that kind of stuff by doing it on paper first and then moving on once you're ready to do that. That's my little tutorial on how to practice making mountains out of acrylic paint and cornstarch. This can also be done with regular cake frosting, and you can color the frosting with either food coloring or paint. The cornstarch I think works better, but you can try it either way. So give it a shot, try it out, see how it works out for you, and let me know in the comments if it works for you. Until next time, this is Gabby. Happy painting!